Welcome to Spokes and Strategy, Marketing the Bicycle with Brandon Morphew and Chris Mehlman of Miso Partners. Hello, Chris. Hello, Kelly. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Spokes and Strategy. Super great to have you both here. I just want to take a minute. Kelly Catale, it's great to have you. I guess if you don't mind, I'd love to hear a little bit about who you are first, and then we can jump into some Q&A.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. So, gosh, I could start in probably any number of directions here. So I'll give you sort of the background is my life is bikes. It's become bikes. It hasn't always been that way, but as of today, I am, if I look at the landscape of all the things that I do, it's kind of all centered around the bicycle. I have a job that is full-time as executive director of New England Youth Cycling. And I know we'll dig into that a little bit more. I'm also the founder and director of Team KellCat Devo, and that's an all-girls junior development mountain bike team based in New England. And I am a coach, so I help coach, provide training plans for a serious set of athletes across actually the Northeast. And then I love bikes myself. I was a former racer, haven't raced recently, but I love riding my bike.
Fantastic. You're in good company here. We're it's a passionate cyclist. Chris, that's what he does here for work, and he also does it professionally for a living. It's been a part of my life for decades. I mean, ever since I was a little kid. That's I think 4 years old. I rode my first bike when I was four, and it's been an incredible journey. It's taken me so many places, professionally, personally. So that's wonderful. It's good to be in good company. And Chris, great to see you again. Good to have time with you. I don't feel like we get to see each other enough, day in and day out working together. So I
Yeah.
always appreciate to get to see you more.
This is a cool one as well. I just wanted to chime in here because I started racing the first year of NUIC back when it was called NESCA, and obviously Kelly and I have been friends, starting after that. But it's cool. So we got the director, we got a I guess you could say an OG athlete on the OG NUIC back when it was 100 kids. That was a long time ago.
It's not 100 kids anymore. How many kids is it?
The past season, 2025, we had 974, I think.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
and we're tracking to have well beyond 1,000 in the coming season.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so in awe of young people that are coming up and having the resources and obviously that's I'm sure that it's loaded when I say that, but having the access to some of these programs that and when I grew up it was just me and my spandex rolling around the neighborhood and getting made fun of and so I do really I am jealous of what's out there, what's available to kids. So I hope more kids continue to take advantage of it. That's great. Okay, first question. I'm what this is sort of like playing into the kid theme. So, what's a recent ride that you went on that made you feel like a kid again?
Mm. It was very recent. So I went to the NEMBA Turkey Afterburner at Hale Education in Westwood, Mass. And that was the Sunday after Thanksgiving this past year. So I don't know, 2 weeks ago-ish. And they had the mountain bike festival had some air routes, and I went out for one of their moderate loops. It was like 12 and a half, 13 miles on some pretty techie terrain. It wasn't their hardest. I was told that multiple times, which was okay with me. But it was my first proper mountain bike ride back in many, many months because I have been recovering from a labral tear in my hip. So I'm I've done some rides and then I have to like hang up the bike for a while because I'm in so much pain. And this was the first time I felt like we're doing, fun tricks and rock gardens and all kinds of stuff. And I even did like a little drop because they had a playground area. It was so much fun. It was so great. I felt like a little kid again. I was giggling. It was great. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, welcome back. That's
Thank you.
I know that that's a really painful injury. Not personally, but I have I've known people that have had that injury. I've heard really,
Yeah,
um, yeah, that's tough. So welcome back.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess to kind of move on. So you've worn quite a few hats in your career. So you were, engineer, racer, coach. You founded KellCat before you became director of NEYC, and now you're director of NEYC. So I guess what thread like ties all those roles together for you? What do you think makes you tick in all of them?
Learning. I think that if I had to say like what drives me, it's the constant pursuit of learning and becoming better. So, and I don't mean better like I'm better than everyone else, more like the best version of myself. And in this season of my life, I am learning to become a better leader and a better mentor for others, for especially for youth cyclists. And that takes the shape of leading a few different organizations and coaching. I feel like every week I am encountering something new, whether it's in my job or it's in one-on-one interactions with athletes that I coach, constantly kind of facing some realities around the way modern culture and life is now that wasn't that way when I was a kid or when I was racing professionally. So I'd say on the whole, learning is really what drove me, even in my professional racing pursuits. I was constantly learning more about myself and how to push myself, how to find my limits, and then take advantage of my capacity for suffering and my joy for adventure. So yeah, I would say, yeah, learning.
Have
Good
you have you
question.
ha have you had mentors in your uh, up until this point? Like, are there folks sort of like the role that you're playing now? Have you had that role in your life previously? Because I know like learning, yes, and then just in general, like growth, someone to look at and sort of model after is such an important part. And I'm just curious if that's something you've had.
It depends on the chapter because I would say more recently, especially in this leadership role at New England Youth Cycling, I have had a few different mentors who have provided. I mean, I'm currently in the middle of a mentorship relationship that's around how to set boundaries. Because if I don't have any, I will work around the clock because I love my job so much. I will love my job until I hate it, probably. And that is something we all want to avoid. So I do have mentorship in that way. When I was a youth athlete, so I played soccer and then I became a pretty competitive runner and cross country runner specifically. So endurance sport, just not on a bike. And during that time, I faced all the challenges you could possibly imagine a female endurance athlete facing. And I really did not have a mentor. So it's actually, one of the secondary reasons why I do what I do is to try to provide the guidance and mentorship, resources, access, all the things that I desperately needed when I was that age. And I think that the absence of it is why I do love my job and love what I do with Team KellCat because it's something that I would have benefited from greatly.
And so that fits right into the Team KellCat and sort of the founding uh, of a all girls mountain bike team, race team. And uh, like, where did you get that from? Like, where did that idea come from? Like, how did you get? I mean, like that to me seems very very empowering. Yes, and grounded. Like that's a real tangible thing you can do. But like, where did that idea come? How did you come up with that as an option in life? Like, where did that come from?
I I am of the mindset that I make my own options. So
Hmm.
like if it doesn't exist, I just make it happen or if I don't know how to do something, I just figure it out. And I think that's what made me a really competitive endurance mountain biker because you're faced with those kinds of micro challenges even in one race. But for Team KellCat, I raced professionally for it was like 8 years, and for the first several years, I was very alone and was learning a lot of things without having mentorship or guidance from anyone else. Because as a female in the sport, it's really, really hard to both share and protect the things that we learn and the things that we have because there are so few females and there's so few resources for the females that anything you get that you feel like you've gained or earned as a female athlete in mountain biking, especially mountain bike racing, I feel like you don't want to share it because it's
Mhm.
so sparse, right?
Yeah.
And um, I was in that position for several years, and then I had a young female racer from New England Youth Cycling, actually, who was struggling with race day anxiety and other things. And her parents reached out to me and asked for some guidance. And of course, me being me, I'm like, I'm the wrong person. You don't talk to me. I don't know what I'm doing because that's what I feel like most days. And they're like, okay, well, do you know anyone who might be able to help? And it struck me that maybe I could. Maybe I could just at least talk about my own experiences. So thus an informal mentorship relationship was born, and it was really just me and this one girl and her family. We'd have dinners, we'd go for bike rides as a group, and it was nice. And I remember one evening I was like getting ready for bed, and I had this moment where I was like, why not try to do something more formal and impact more girls? So the idea of a team was born, and the thought behind it was, why not share the resources I have? And what I was learning was that it was helping her. So could I do that for more and be the mentor I needed? And the idea was sort of born out of that. It was, there's nowhere else for her to go. That would make her feel like she was part of this community of female racers, because they're all the teams. I mean, Chris has been on some teams in the past as well. Like, we know that in the racing scene, most of the teams are male dominated with a few token females. That's just how it works. And
Hmm.
I wanted to do it differently. So there was nothing in New England, and I decided to start something new. Actually, I would say there's nothing in New England and throughout the entire rest of the country, I think. I don't think that there's an all girls
There's
mountain
no,
bike team, junior
yeah,
development anyway.
there's nothing. I can definitely say that for, I know Kay Courtney's trying to start some sort of organization, but there's no like team for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
So what an opportunity. Just thinking, I mean, I think you know, but this podcast is focused on marketing the bicycle, marketing for bike shops. But I mean, we're regularly looking for where are the gaps, where are the opportunities that you can own as a um, local shop. And I mean, that to me is like, uh, you know, big in lights, it's like beep beep. that it's like the beacon is shining, like uh somebody take the reins and drive the bus. This is a great recognizing those opportunities. They're rare that they come along so vividly, so good, kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been
I,
a labor of love more than anything else, I think. And the team is, I think if you ask me, why don't we have a sponsor shop? Why don't we have more sponsors? I mean, we have some key sponsors that have supported us since the beginning of our team support, and it's been awesome. And I am a volunteer of that organization. It does not pay me. Actually,
Mhm.
it owes me a lot of money. Actually, I've written loan letters to the organization, and so it's great. And it's one of those where we're confined to what's possible within what's available. And we have a 9-person team going into 2026, 9 girls.
Mhm.
Then I become the 10th. We have an all-female board of directors because we are a registered nonprofit. And we're going to be having a female intern, college student. So all great, all awesome things going into 2026 for sure.
That's fantastic.
that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say, having been, I mean, obviously this is coming from the male side, but even that side, the development team space is a challenged space, I think would be putting it kindly. The team I was on, I would say compared to average, was better in terms of ratio male to female, but it was cutthroat, competitive, not supportive, and yeah, I'll be, be upfront about that. So it's really been cool to see what you've done there. And I think one thing I've noticed, like spending time with you at races and stuff, and like major events and smaller events and stuff, is you're very meticulous and like you notice things, you take time to be like, okay, what's the best line here? I'm going to get this dialed in. All the like logistics. So we did marathon mountain bike together, and it's much more logistically heavy than XCO or like cyclocross, I'd say, and just like really thinking through everything. So so how did your time as a racer like shape how you lead people today? That could be like adults in within any NUIC, like the volunteers you're working with, or the kids you're dealing with in NUIC, or the girls on KellCat.
Good question. You guys are asking great questions. I'm so impressed. So I would say one of the biggest things that I learned through professional racing is that I'm not perfect. And that if I try to give the perception that I am, it's actually it's very dangerous because then people expect perfection. So what I have done is lead authentically. And whether we're talking about New England Youth Cycling, KellCat Devo, or even coaching, I'm leading from a place of, I want to figure this out. And let's build the toolbox for how to figure out challenges in front of us, whether it's today challenges or future challenges. And when it comes to leading in general, I've been taking that position of, I don't know, I don't have all the answers. And I don't want that to be paralyzing. So instead, we're going to try. We're going to try something new. We're going to try something that helps us get to where we want to be. And in the meantime, we're going to learn, and then we'll do better as we learn. So that is something that I started as a really green racer. Like, I had no idea what I was doing when I was racing professionally. My first professional race was at altitude. It was in Utah, Soldier Hollow. I had no idea what I was doing, and I raced at altitude. Like, what was I even thinking? I was just excited to race, and I was like, I'm a pro now. I got my face kicked in. It was so bad. And I remember getting back up being like, all right, I know a little bit more now, and I'm going to do a little better. So my goal has been to pass that mentality, that growth mindset, onto the people that I lead and that I interact with.
You're in good company here. We are firm believers in the growth mindset. I think recognizing that we don't know everything, that there's opportunity to learn, and for me, the bike's always been a fantastic place for that. Like that's my metaphor, and it comes up. But like I've always there's moments in my life. I rode BMX when I was a kid, and then I got into mountain biking, and then road biking, and I've ridden. I haven't raced professionally. I'm in a more of an enthusiast role than you guys, but I've had great opportunities to ride with people that have pushed me, with pro athletes that have pushed me very aggressively, and I've learned so much. And I always learn on the bike, and that same growth mindset exists. And so you sort of, and I think you mentioned this on the when we had our little intake, but you got into this role that you're in now, and you wanted to change everything at once. You're someone who's clearly wants to take the reins and get after it. And I love that you're you know doing it right. You're picking these battles and you're doing it. But how do you go from somebody who's responsible for a women's development team into someone who's responsible for an organization, a large number of volunteers? How do you, I guess, first transition? So you have to learn a lot and you have to do a lot of things. How do you prioritize? And where do you put the sort of like pin on the map as like this is because it's overwhelming. I think it's overwhelming for anybody who's coming into these. So how did you do it?
Not gracefully. How did I do it? Oh my goodness. I think maybe to add to the flavor of this question is I have a degree in biomedical engineering, and that's what I was doing prior to this job. So how did I do it? With eyes wide open. And I think what I did is I leaned on the people around me so heavily. And I don't mean like they did all the work. I just mean that I I made an effort really quickly to understand who was there and willing to help and what could they do, because everyone has their skill set that they one enjoy, but also maybe they're overlapping, but a skill set they're good at. And in that first year, I was in learning mode. I was doing a lot of asking questions, listening, taking a lot of feedback in from members of the league, from parents, from coaches and head coaches, assistant coaches, all of that, and then our board. And then breathing when the first season was done, because I started the role 2 weeks before the first race of the season in 2024. I did not have a lot of time to onboard. There wasn't a lot there to review anyway to onboard. So it was a lot of like, go. And I made a lot of mistakes because I could see there was opportunity for growth and change, and I just wanted to do it. And here's the thing, all the other stuff that I've done in the past, right? KellCat Devo. And we started as a two-girl team. We had two junior girls and me. So if I wanted to make a change, I did it. And we would learn pretty quickly if it didn't work, and then we'd adjust again. But my mindset of what is possible with a larger organization just wasn't calibrated. So I was wanting to do what I felt was best. I was leading with intuition, trying to lead with trying to do the best that I knew I could with what I had available to me, which included what I understood of the league. And I definitely made some mistakes. And how did I transition into the role? It was, like I said, it was a lot of relying on those around me to help me lift up the organization, and then a lot of listening to learn as fast as I possibly could. I had a grasp on things by the end of the season, but I think the bigger thing that actually helped with my transition was my humanity. I pointed out when I was wrong a lot. I did it on our pre-race calls. We have six of them, one for each of the races, the Tuesday before a race. And I would admit, like, here's where things went wrong, and this is on me, and we're going to do it differently for this next race, right? So I think there was a lot of, hey, I'm going to be transparent and honest. And that helped reset everyone's expectations, but then also I think made it a more open environment for admitting where there were gaps in things and where we could
Mhm.
change. So it's kind of like this space for making change happen as a group rather than just one person.
Where
Uh,
did that come from? Because and I know Chris has a question, but I'm just curious. So this is something I've struggled with my whole life. My ego and, you know, getting comfortable with being wrong. Like the growth mindset for me, like the bike's no problem. Like I know I can get better at the bike, and so I'm going to get things wrong, and that's. But other places in my life, I've been really challenged with like this, like admitting that I failed, admitting that like acknowledging that I failed. I can do better. Like for me personally, this has been a challenge. Like, and I'm 50 something years old. I don't want to go too far down that road, but I'm an old man. And so where did it come from for you? Because I feel like I know you're not 50 something. I feel like you have a gift here, like that, like maybe people couldn't benefit from. Like, how did you find that, or was it always there? Did your parents give it to you? What's the how did you do it? Do you know the question?
um,
Does it make sense what I'm asking?
yeah, I've
Okay.
actually I've never thought about what the origin story is for my willingness to fail and learn. Um, I'm gonna psychoanalyze myself for a second and say I think it was partly from racing professionally
Hmm.
because you are the only one who can pedal your bike. You have to face your humanity out there. If you make a mistake, you make your mistake, right? It's on you.
Hmm.
And there were times when I made mistakes or I made assumptions or whatever through racing that I had no choice but to learn or to at least accept the accountability that it was on me. And I do think there was a thread of that was tied into preparing me for this role. And then in parallel, I worked in medical technology development for an engineering consulting agency prior, actually, a few of them. I've had multiple engineering jobs prior to this. And the most recent one, I was an engineering program manager for a series of projects. And I started that role feeling like I had to be perfect and would ultimately found myself in a place where I was like, well, I have to have an excuse for everything. And if it didn't go well, I have to find a way to sort of like hide it because I don't want them to know that I'm doing things wrong because I'm the manager. I should be doing
Yeah.
things right.
Yeah.
And I had a reckoning, I think, where I was like, I just need to tell the truth. And if they hate me, then fire me, right? But I can't keep holding on to these things. And what I learned really quickly was that I was really well supported in that organization where when mistakes happened and I admitted them when I knew they existed rather than bottling them deep down, um, that everyone was there to help fix it because the intent of the organization was to act as a team. And I feel that same way with NUIC, is that we are a team, we're a giant community, and we're all here to support each other. So I feel safe to be able to share when things aren't right. I think
Mhm.
I would be holding my mistakes closer if it felt like a culture of disrespect and negativity and not this assumption of positive intent. But I'm surrounded by volunteers, coaches, parents who want to be there, who
Mhm.
want to give an enriched experience to the kids. And as a result, they're willing to follow someone who is real rather than
Mhm.
just perfect. And that has made things kind of freeing for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, so where did it come from? Maybe those two things.
Yeah.
Or maybe I was born with it, like Maybelline.
This is where you credit. I guess all credits and where I went to college. You know, they taught me no. Yeah, no, it is funny because I like totally. Yeah, resonate a lot with that. I think one thing we talk about with MISO partners and me and Brandon is uh, at least in the industry we're in, and I realize this is a little different with what you're doing. No one's gonna die if we screw up, and I know that you're running mountain bike races, so it's a little different. But it's like if it's something that if something goes out on social media that is there's a typo in it, or there's like a the time is 15 minutes off, and you have to send a correction. It's not the end of the world, and I think like there definitely is a lot of the culture of that that's not acceptable in the US especially, which I've noticed like going overseas where it's like, oh, it's so different. And so yeah, I definitely resonate with that a lot. I guess one question I have is what's like we've kind of talked about the challenge you had like shifting into the role in such a, let's say, rough timing. What's the biggest challenge you think like the organization has faced, as a nonprofit, obviously, but also as an organization in the bike industry and also youth sports. So,
Yeah. I feel like each one of those flavors that you just mentioned has a different answer. So I think for us as an organization, which by the way, maybe I should pause for a second for your listeners and just say New England Youth Cycling, a we're a registered nonprofit in New England that ultimately we are a youth development organization that uses the bike as a tool to help kids grow and learn and build community. That's not our mission. I could parrot our mission, but it is to help use the sport of cycling for to enable growth. And we do that for nearly 1,000 kids throughout New England. And we have almost actually more than a 1-to-2 ratio of coach to athlete. So last year we had 974 kids registered and we had 506 coaches. That's amazing. So what is the challenge that we face as an organization is actually brand awareness. We live in one of the most mountain bike dense areas of the country. We have trail systems. You could get to, no matter where you are in New England, you could get to a trail system within a half hour, easy. And we only have 1,000 kids. Like that to me is shocking. We find regularly that families find us somehow, whether they stumbled upon us through running into a coach on trails when they're just out riding and a coach recognizes that they're a kid, right? Like, oh, you're a kid, you're riding. Have you heard of New England Youth Cycling? um, or maybe it's through bike shops or whatever. But parents will actually say, "I never knew you guys existed. I didn't know. I wish I had something like this when I was a kid." And that is probably the biggest challenge that we face is that we have heavily in the past relied on word of mouth. So we're just kids telling their friends and then their friends are getting involved. But when you tell your friends, yeah, I wear spandex and tight shirts and we race bikes for an hour, like it's hard to communicate what this sport really is to a bunch of kids. And there is an accessibility component, right? I mean, it is a sport of privilege in a lot of ways, and that makes it harder to become part of it, right? It's not so simple as buying a pair of running shoes or a pair of soccer cleats. There's so much more. And the challenge is getting more of the word out there so that we can have more members, more engagement, to the point where our infrastructure is challenged. And then we have to decide how we grow. And I hope if we were to have a podcast in like 5 years, I hope that the biggest challenge is how do we fit all of our members at our venues for races, right? Like, I hope that we get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and until then, the challenge is really reaching outside of our word of mouth network. And that is something that we face regularly because the sport is a little bit of a niche sport.
Yeah, I have one follow-up question on that, and that's I guess like if you could do one thing, say if disregarding money and funds and stuff, you do one thing for brand awareness in this specific case, what do you think would be the most impactful? It's sort of a marketing question, I guess.
I would love to put a a newsletter type, or I would love to put some sort of a flyer in every single school's newsletter. Because I think that's all it would take is some
Mm-hmm.
sort of like, did you know we exist? And
Mm-hmm.
if so, I bet there's a team in your area, and let it grow from there. But we are not school affiliated. So unlike other youth cycling leagues, we actually don't have school teams, except for one, we have an anomaly in the league. But outside of that, we are not a school team kind
Mm-hmm.
of sport. So we're like a rec club kind of thing, which makes it really hard to spread the word. We rely on our coaches, our head coaches, team managers to do the communication locally. And it makes it a lot more challenging because each person has their own time availability, their own flavor, their own access to whatever their local organizations are.
Well, I want you to hold me to this. We will be more than happy to donate some time to help you with this. So we
Thank
we
you.
we we run a marketing agency. I don't know if we mentioned that, but marketing is what we do. And it's interesting because my partner is a high school English teacher and an administrator, and I was thinking, sort of, my head went to like, have you engage with Massachusetts Teachers Association? Have you engaged with the different groups? So anyway, we can have but connecting with groups, with where you can disseminate large information to large amounts of people and do it in an efficient way, because part of your is building awareness. That's the challenge. So those newsletters exist, and I do think some conversations around how to get in there, I'd be happy to spend some time on that, so we can take
Thank
that
you.
offline. Yeah,
Yeah, thank
absolutely.
you.
Speaking of trying things, so I have a question around, like, you'd love in 5 years to be everywhere. How big? What is the right size? So how big is your group? The New England high school
New
cycling, is
England
that what it is?
youth
No,
cycling.
so we used to be.
No, oh yeah, no, I'm terrible. New England Youth Cycling Association. Is that it? Is that, did I get that right, or did I butcher it again?
No, the New England Youth Cycling. You got it.
Okay,
Yeah, there's
New
no
England Youth Cycling.
association in there.
Got
So,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
So how big should it be? What's the right size?
I have not done that market analysis yet.
Okay.
So, um, realistically, I could see us being 2,000 kids and a
Okay.
thousand coaches. I mean, I think there's so much untapped potential in the existing team regions, and then
Hmm.
also in regions of New England that don't have teams yet. Um, Fun fact, there's a league, I think it's Utah, a NICA
Hmm.
league
Hmm.
that is youth cycling, mountain biking, and they have somehow grown their network and community such that they are the number one school sport in the state.
In
Yep,
Utah.
I can.
Wow.
It's the Utah League is my
Yeah.
roommate is from Utah, and
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
it's insane. It's like I think they have like 7,000 kids. So what is a good size for us? I mean, we will get to a point where our current venues can't hold a capacity of 2,000 athletes, and then we have to decide what we do. And we've already started those conversations because
Hmm.
we have to act like it before we become it, right? So
Hmm.
let's build that infrastructure before it happens so we're not flat-footed. And I could see us being bigger than 2000. I feel like I don't know the right answer because it's going to depend on what the next steps are for us. Um, yeah, it's a great question. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot more people in your population base than there are in Utah. You already mentioned we have more access to trails than
Hmm.
almost any other part of the country. So as a marketer, I would look at market opportunity and I would say you probably have an undersized estimate at 2,000.
Yeah,
So I'm going to
probably.
say, my number was going to be 10. I was going to say 10,000. So that was my number. So
I
anyway,
would, I'd
I think it's
love that.
doable. Yeah, I think it's doable, but then it creates a whole bunch of new questions, right? What are those things? Um,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking about growth. That's where my mind, because we're talking about that. What are some things you've done over the last year since you've been there that have really positively impacted growth?
Mm. We we tried something new this past, every January we do a preseason coaches summit. That is a meeting of the head coaches and team managers and the league staff and board members. And historically, this summit has been primarily a presentation of the rules, what's going to happen for the season ahead, and what to expect. What's the schedule? What are the rule changes? Make sure you keep in mind these things about coaches, all that stuff. And last year, we sort of turned things on its head. And we did do the presentation of what's changing. And because I did work with the board to rework quite a bit of the rule book and just be a bit more in line with where I hope we were heading. And I encouraged participation from the group rather than just being talked at. So we started the day with a collaborative exercise where they talked about challenges that they faced for their team. So we had them sit at groups in groups where they were not all among the same sized team, the same region, and and team members, right? We had a head coach at one table and a team manager at another table. And the goal was to come up with a list of the most common challenges that their teams faced. And what we ended up learning was that there's a lot of overlap between teams. And historically, there wasn't this collaborative kind of culture where teams could express their challenges in a way that made them feel safe, right? So this goes back to that safety of talking about being human. And there wasn't a venue to be able to say, hey, we're actually really struggling with this without feeling like they were doing something wrong. So we opened it up for what are the challenges. And in the afternoon, we went back to those challenges. I assigned a challenge to each group and they had to brainstorm ways to solve it, right? Different ways based on team size or whatever. And then each group had to present. And people were like, oh my God, that was a great idea. And they're like, you could see they're feverishly writing down in their notebook. And what I thought was a fun knowledge sharing turned into our Slack workspace is it was on fire. People were like, "Hey, do you want to combine our teams for practices a few times this season?" Or, "Hey, could someone tell me more about team captains and what you guys do for that?" And it just it opened up the culture of the league into a space of sharing and lifting all of us up together rather than a siloed effort to be the best team that they can be without again, this kind of comes to that scarcity mindset of like, I'm holding these things close because there's so few of these things. And the truth is, when we all share, we all grow, we all lift each other up. And I've noticed a real shift in the way that the coaches interact with each other and the teams interact with each other. A lot of sharing and collaboration, which also takes a little bit of the burden off me because when someone's
Mm.
like, how does someone do this? I don't have to be the one who's just answering that all the time. So yeah, it's empowering others to speak up and be leaders, both in their local team, but in among the league as well. Worked
Yeah,
really well.
that's really really interesting. I do have one question we'll move on to, but before that, I just wanted to say like we had a webinar with just earlier today with bike shops and kind of about planning for 2026 in business and stuff like that. And one of the interesting things was, it's so hard to get people to commit to like sharing things, but once you do, it's like then the floodgates
Mm.
open because then people realize, wait, actually my idea is not out there. It's like everyone else has the same problem. Everyone else is dealing with the same things, and that's just the nature of things. But it's getting that first step, and so that's really impressive. You were able to yeah, you were able to do that. I
I
guess
didn't do
relate.
it just
Yeah,
for what it's worth. I didn't do it intentionally. Like, I just
but
was like, this seems like a good thing to do. And if I was to say, yeah, I totally did that intentionally and I can take all the credit for doing it, like, that would be so foolish of me. So,
it also,
yeah,
yeah, but it also, like, you created this, the feeling in the space for people to feel comfortable to do that, and that's like hard. That's hard to do, right? I at least, like, even just thinking, back in like high school, when you have high school and college, you have a lot more group activities, and inevitably, especially in high school or middle school, like, it's so hard to get people. There's always a few people who share, but it's so hard to get people to collaborate in that way. And the older I get, I feel like the more I realize, it's not too different with adults. Like, they're kind of the same,
Exactly the same.
same sort of challenges. So that's impressive. I guess
We're all just kids. We're all just big kids, is what it
yeah.
is.
pretty much, yeah. Related to that, is there one, um like, just talking about the athletes, is there one, like, example, obviously don't name any names or anything, is there one example where there was just a moment where you're like, this is why I love doing this, like at a race or something, where you're like, this is why maybe it's they've graduated the league and you've seen something done, or it's at a race, just a single moment, something like that.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we'd get into speed sparkles in this talk. So I'm really glad you asked this question because that is what comes to mind. There's probably a million things, but I at the races, I've been trying to promote this culture of fun and community building. And one of the things I did, and it was totally not, again, not intentional, I started wearing sparkles on my cheeks, like, like the football kind of
Hmm.
marks. I started putting sparkles on my cheeks. And then it slowly formed into other people asking me for sparkles on my cheeks, on
Hmm.
their cheeks rather. And so what I would do is I would actually look them in the eye. I would put sparkles on their cheeks with, I'd have to touch their cheeks. And it's a very kind of personal moment. And I had someone, I'm going to keep things really vague, right? So they don't become known. I had someone come up to me who had many times asked for sparkles, and they they had an issue that they were uncomfortable talking about with they would have been uncomfortable talking about it with anyone, right? Leadership role, whatever. And they came to me and expressed a concern that they had directly to me, looked me in the eye, and it was someone who had come to me many times just asking for sparkles. And I knew in that moment, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's to create a connection and create a safe space. I feel like we just keep coming back to that, which was not intentional. Again,
Hmm.
nothing I do is intentional, apparently. But this is it was creating this relationship with the kids where we start first with the low barrier of, hey, Kelly, can I have sparkles? And when I do that, I look them in the eye. I'm asking them questions about their race or about the day, and we're building that bond. And then now they feel more comfortable the next time to come to me. Instead of sparkles, they're talking about a rule infraction or something I said that might have made them uncomfortable, like I'm mispronouncing their name or something, right? And that's been one of those themes of this past season that made me realize that I love my job. And it started with a bunch of sparkles, right? But it was about leadership and creating trust with the people that I lead.
That's it too. Like I think safe space, the word, this phrase is loaded, right? It's
Yeah.
something that people kind of like, but really what it is it's a place that you can be with people you trust, right? It's that's what it is. It's not that foreign, it I think it has some layers as far as what it means, and but the reality at the end of the day, it's just this place that you are trusted and loved, and welcomed and wanted, and I think everybody wants that. Like that's not an odd thing to want, right? Like and I, when I think about psychological safety, which is a big, that's sort of what it is. When I think about that, I think about workplaces that have been toxic, and whether that's you know uh, driven by some ego or some other kind of uh, machismo, like these things that are, you know, toxic is a good word for it. because it's counter to narcissism. Is one of the, it's like very clear right in the crosshairs. Narcissism is probably a big part of that. But you know, the other side of that is when you have these things is you can create these moments of joy. Like you can have these just brilliant, exceptional uh, times in our lives where we get to be with people and to get to open up and to show love and care and it's magic. You know, I mean, when we get to those places, like when we're in a place where we're trusted and we trust and it's just wonderful. So I'm thinking about sort of, it could be the kids, it could be the races, it could be just, just cycling in general. But are there some of these, joyful moments from the last speed sparkles aside from the last, year that you really like, kind of like it's like wow, like that is just a kind of amazing that this is happening because I see it in places I think it's easy to forget sometimes it is such a we live in such a joyful world because there's so many things that are not are counter and not everybody gets to but the bike there's no way around it, right? The bike is just it's pure joy once you get going, like it's the it's hard to unless you're suffering, but it's hard to keep the smile from ear to ear.
Um, there's so many moments of joy. I feel like we have we have a community that really celebrates each other, celebrates growth and progress. And yeah, we're race, so there's a lot of comparison because that's what racing is inherently. But I think one of the places that I see some amount, maybe it brings me more joy than the athletes themselves, but when I'm standing on the start line, so when we start each of the races, I'm the one who has the mic and I am typically in a race when the person at the front has the mic and they're doing their spiel, it's like, okay, I'm going to give you a 1 minute warning and then 15 seconds and then you'll go on my whistle. And that's pretty much it. I know I've been to nationals where I've been thinking to myself, like, wow, Mr. Personality here is really kicking us off. And and instead, I try to give the kids a space to like reset. So sometimes I'll say, all right, tell me five, think in your head 5 colors you see, 4 things that you feel, and try to get them, I'm integrating tools that worked for me when I was on the start line, or
Mhm.
take a deep breath with me and I'll take a deep breath. And I watch these kids actually do it. And it's remarkable to me. That brings me joy when I know that they're listening to me, even if they're rolling their eyes, because I watch the eye rolling. Everyone does it. And I don't care. I tell them to fist bump their neighbors, right? So like, okay, turn to your left, fist bump your neighbor, turn to your right. And there is an element of sharing what I've learned with them that brings me a ton of joy because when I was racing, I mentioned at the beginning, it was really lonesome. It was really hard. I learned the hard way on almost everything. And if I can enable these athletes to not have to do that, that brings me joy. Now, when I see like kids kids who are racing side by side and they're pushing each other in the middle of the race, you can see the smile on their face when they cross the finish line and they high five each other. That is joy, right? That's suffering mutually. That is a universal signal of like we worked hard and we celebrate each other because of it. Um, and then of course I see all kinds of fun that's happening on race day that isn't even related to racing. It's kids hanging out with other kids they didn't know before that day, making new friends, and then hearing about their adventures after race season's over, going and riding the same chairlift at Highland Mountain Bike Park or something like that. So yeah, I feel like it would be really hard for me to list out a bunch of joyful moments because it's when I try to think of it, I'm flooded by them. It's such, which is a good problem to have, I suppose.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
fantastic problem to have.
yeah, I think like when I think back to my time in Nes what it was called Nesca back then, it was I went to a NEYC race a couple years ago and it just felt like this festival. It was so I was like blown away by how big it was. It just felt like this whole festival. Like everyone was there having cookouts all day. It felt like I used to play youth lacrosse and it was like a lacrosse jamboree where like people you spend the whole day there kind of hanging out. it was like a kids version of like cyclocross race. People, adults in that case go and drink and hang out and stuff. But this was just like a great atmosphere. And yeah, you're there for the race, but really you're just there to hang out with other people. And I think like when I was in Nesca, it didn't quite have that yet because it wasn't big enough and the scheduling didn't work out. And I went there, I'm like, wow, it's pretty amazing. So I guess like we'll start wrapping things up here. I guess one like final main question I'd love to know is like, um, we've covered some of this, but if the New England cycling community or cycling community more broadly could understand like one thing about youth cycling, what would you want it to be?
About youth cycling in general or New England youth cycling?
I would just say youth cycling, like what you're, specifically, we're not talking like, yeah, like, leagues like NEYC. So that's sort of youth cycling. So NICA, NEYC, those sorts of things.
I'm noodling over this. So yeah, thanks for pausing with me for a second because I really want to answer
Sorry
this
for the hard
well.
question.
No, I mean, so the reason I'm doing that is because I've got a couple potential options, and so my engineering brain is playing them out in my head. Like, if I say that, would that be a good answer? You know what? I'm gonna pick an answer that comes to my mind, and maybe it's not the perfect one, and I'm not perfect, so that's the lesson of the day. Um, if the community, the larger community, could understand youth cycling in general, it's that it's youth cycling is really it's a medium for growth, cycling in general, right? You're the only one who can pedal your bike. You're the only one who can get there's no, I mean, there's no bench sitting in this sport. There's no time off. There's no like, oh, you only got to play in this one position because you're really good at that one skill. There's You have to be a well-rounded human to make it through a bike race and feel good. And the medium of cycling is a fantastic tool to learn about ourselves, especially mountain biking, because you're off the road, so the risks are different, right? They're still risk, but they're different. And the opportunity to learn about ourselves is huge. And that could be adults or kids, right? That's
Mhm.
agnostic of age. But when we think about youth cycling in general, we're talking about a population that is still figuring out who they are and what they're capable of, where they fit in the world. And the space that we offer as a league fills the gap of something that, it's a place for kids, any type of kid to fit in. And it doesn't have to be racing. It's just being out on a trail, being out on a gravel road, on your bike. You're going to learn. And I think if the community as a whole knew that the power of the bike is so much more than just giving you the ability to go compete, but more so to learn about yourself and what you're capable of. I think we all could benefit from a little bit of biking in our life, honestly.
Mhm.
And that I think is the big message, is that it's a space for all, and it is useful for growth for all, but especially kids.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
There's so many reasons why I ride my bike, and I find I'm always shocked when there's more. I realize there's even more reasons, and so I really appreciate that. I'm wondering. So I know we have bike shops that listen. We have brands that listen. I, I I think one of the things that we regularly talk about with our clients and with folks is like, I want to do more with the community. I want to get involved. I want to do things that I need to grow cycle. Like this is like the mantra is like, I need to grow cycling. I need to grow my cycling community. How can I get more involved? This is like, so I'm teeing up the easy one here, but like there's never been a more perfectly wrapped gift under your Christmas tree than uh, than than working with high school cycling. Like to me, like this is with kids, with youth cycling. Like it doesn't get any more perfect. Like grow the sport, get people engaged. There's joy, there's youth energy, like all the stuff, all the boxes are checked. So how do people get involved? How's this? Where should we send people? What do we do?
Yeah, my suggestion as a very baseline sort of how do you get involved, it could range from something huge to something really small, is to become a coach for your local team. That would be my first suggestion, because it introduces you to the league. And if you can go to a race day, I mean, honestly, maybe that's the first thing. How do you get involved? Go see what we do. Go to one of our 6 race days. Our schedule is on the website, and see what we're all about. Because I guarantee if you like bikes and you like community, you will not leave that race without some sort of feeling of inspiration. It's a production. It's like a giant festival, like Chris described. We if the person interested has bike skills, and I don't mean they have to be a professional racer. Actually, in fact, most of our coaches have never coached before. They hear the word coach and they're like, I can't do that. Don't sign me up for that. And the reality is we have a whole coach education system where we teach coaches the tools they need to succeed, to be able to teach the kids and be the coach, the leader, the ambassador for the league that we need them to be. And all they have to do is come with a good attitude and a willingness to learn. That's all they need. And a bike, essentially. And
Yeah.
so we have teams that are for kids in grades K through 5. They do not move very quickly on the trails. So if you want to
Yes.
coach, but you fear your speed, join
Mhm.
a development team, because that's the K through 5 age range. And if you want to coach and you have an appetite for slightly faster rides, or not even, right? Be a sweeper in the beginner group for those teams. The race teams are a great place. We often find, and I hear regularly, that our local teams are confined or constrained with how many kids they can take based on the number of coaches they have. Because we require as a league a certain number of coaches per athlete at practices. And if they
Got it.
can't meet that regularly, they have to keep their team small.
Mm.
So if you want to get involved, that would be the most meaningful impact. And then you get to have direct interaction with the kids and the next generation. It's amazing. It will not be it would not be possible to do what we do without our coaches. And then of course, if there's a business who wants to interact with us more robustly and wants to talk about what that would look like, we have worked with bike shops in all different capacities. We have some awesome bike shops that work with us now that have seen the benefit of giving back to the community and believe deeply in it. And it all comes back to healthy teams. We know that a healthy league starts with healthy teams, and healthy teams come from supportive bike shops and families. So I wouldn't say write us a check. That's not the first step. I actually think the first step would be reaching out to a local team. And if someone's like, how do I find my team? The website has a team locator map, and you can actually type in your zip code and then it tells you what team is available in your region.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, folks can find you at the the website. We'll leave a link, but what is the website, just so we can, if people don't, if they're lazy and they don't go and read the show notes?
The website is NE, like New England. So NEYouthCycling.com.
NEYouthCycling.com. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. So I really appreciate. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about or anything else you wanted to plug. You got your new primetime television show coming out. What's happening next? I'm happy to take a minute and share anything else if there's anything else you want to share.
Honestly, the we've talked about a lot of the great stuff. I think being able to plug, like, join as a coach is really meaningful. So
Okay.
we've got, from a programming standpoint, as a league, we are growing our development team. So that is the youngest, the most beginner of our racers, or sorry, of our athletes. They're actually not racers. The races we offer for the slightly older kids.
Mhm.
And the development team program had 4 teams last year, and we already have 7, probably closer to 10, that will be set up for 2026. So we are making strides in that program and really getting the word out there. So I guess that's where we're focusing a lot of effort in the coming season. And I can't wait to see where the league grows to. I think we're going to see a hopefully a really big year ahead of us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What kind of commitment does a coach need to expect? What kind of commitment do you need from someone who's going to coach?
Yeah, great question. I wish I had thought to cover that. So we require that every single adult that goes out in the woods with kids has a level one NEYC license. I know that means nothing. That's like a different language to anyone who doesn't know it, but it requires signing up in our system, which
Hmm.
is a $25 registration fee. Um, you get a background check as part of that
Hmm.
registration process, and you have to pass the background check. And then we have two online training that are they're free for safe sport and concussion training so that our coaches
Hmm.
have a base amount of preparation for some of the most common things that happen in the woods with kids. And then it's like an 8-minute video where I talk about the coach education system so that people understand what they're getting into. And all of that it probably takes, especially if you're filling out the background check for the first time, maybe 2 hours total for all the requirements, the training and all of that. And then it actually varies by team. Some coaches, so I was a coach before I was in this role. I was a coach for my local team. I probably went to 3 practices the whole season.
Okay.
So the appetite for the team to have a coach is really, it's dependent on what they need, right? If they say, hey, we can only have 5 kids at practice, if you can't show up to one a week, it's going to be dependent. But the head coaches are very, very understanding of time commitments, especially if someone doesn't have a kid on the team, which was
Mhm.
my case, right? I was racing professionally. I don't have kids. So it was my way of giving back. So every team's different, but I would say most teams would be willing to say, if you can make it to 2 practices, 3 practices, the entire season, we'll have you. Um, yeah, so it doesn't need to be multiple days a week. It doesn't have to be many hours a week. It could be, I mean, honestly, you get to ride your bike. Like,
Mhm.
that's not a bad deal.
No,
It's an
no.
excuse.
Zone two. We're all looking for zone two work, right?
Might
It's
be zone
fantastic.
one. There
Might be
might be
zone
some
one.
zone one.
Or some I don't my experience in the local high school team here is it was more of a hour and a half long threshold effort because all they do is attack each other. So
I mean, every team is different, and it's something that we talk about is structuring different groups for our teams so that everyone feels like they have a place and they're
yes,
met where they are.
this was the fast group, and
Yes.
they were very fast.
Yes, we do. We find that there are certain coaches start to feel a challenge of not being able to keep up with their
Mhm.
fastest racers. So I look forward to those challenges because it means that we've got really competitive athletes in the league. Yeah.
That's
But anyway,
that's
the
great.
commitment doesn't have to be huge. It really doesn't.
I'm asking for people listening. I'm asking for myself as well. I've done some uh, mountain bike coaching in a previous life, and so I'm curious. And there's a 14-year-old here in the house that would benefit from being on a mountain bike team. So fantastic. Thank you so much, Kelly. This has
Yeah.
been wonderful. Really grateful for your time and all the work you're doing with New England Youth Cycling. I think it's a wonderful effort. It's wonderful for the sport. I think, this is to me is just a gift for bicycle retailers to get involved in and help, whether that's coaching or providing space and a way for kids to sort of get into the sport. You mentioned financial challenges with accessibility, so I think there's lots of opportunity. When I think my gears start turning. So I'm just grateful to learn more about you and learn more about what you're doing, and yeah, it's great. And hopefully we will. 5 years we'll come back together, or sooner. Hopefully sooner, but 5 years we'll come back and there'll be 10,000 kids in this in this organization. Is that
You
unreal?
said it.
Is that unreasonable? Am I being? I'm probably being unreasonable. So
If I had an 8 ball, I would flip it over and maybe it would say all signs point to yes.
I love it. That's great.
We will see. I don't know where we're headed, but it looks like growth and it looks like
Yeah,
more community and more fun. So I'm excited for it.
fantastic. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again for your time. And we'll look forward to hearing more and seeing more kids out on the trails.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a real joy to be here.
Yeah, excellent. Take care. Bye.